We all know the girl who went through a horse phase. Some just never grew out of it, and their parents' bank accounts never recovered. You know the type. Horse posters covering every inch of their bedroom walls. My Little Pony obsession somehow evolved into an actual pony obsession, and weekend riding lessons that were supposed to be temporary but somehow became an entire lifestyle. But here's what most people don't realize. There is a universe that exists between Susie's weekend riding lessons and the world of serious horse culture. The gap between knowing how to canter and understanding bloodlines, breeding, and why someone just paid $2 million for a horse is about roughly equivalent to the difference between knowing how to change a tire and being Lewis Hamilton. I'm Gabriel St. Charles, and I own just enough Ralph Lauren polo shirts to tell you that while everyone thinks that they understand horses because they rode at summer camp, there is an entire ecosystem of knowledge that separates those who ride from those who truly belong in this world. From pony clubs to polo clubs, from weekend warriors to people whose horses have better healthcare than most humans. Today we're decoding a world where your horse's bloodline matters more than your own, and we're understanding the difference between a thoroughbred and a warm blood can be the difference between belonging and being politely tolerated.
Alright, as you can see, I've got my Ralph Lauren on for this one. So let's get started. Let's start by giving you a framework for understanding the horse world. Because calling everyone who sits on a horse an equestrian is sort of like calling everyone who owns a car a racing driver. First, at the foundation level, there's riding school culture. These are your weekend lessons, summer camps, the realm of horse girls everywhere. This is the gateway drug. $30 to $50 per lesson, shared horses with names like Buttercup and Charlie, you know the drill. And most importantly, parents who think this phase will pass. Spoiler alert, for some it never does. This is where everyone starts, but very few people understand. It's just the entry point to a much deeper world. Next up, we've got the serious riders who actually own horses. We're talking about $5,000 to $15,000 for the horse, plus another $5 to $10K annually for boarding, training, vet bills and equipment. These people compete locally, know their way around a stable, and can tell you the difference between a snaffle and a curb bit. They're serious about riding, but they're still recreational. The competition circuit is where things get expensive really quickly. Show jumping, dressage, eventing, horses costing $20K to $100K, custom trailers worth more than most people's cars, and annual expenses that rival a luxury car lease. This is where talent meets serious money, because competing at high levels requires both skill and substantial financial backing. The racing world is its own universe entirely. Thoroughbreds worth millions, breeding operations that span generations, and fortunes won and lost on bloodlines and betting. When someone owns racehorses, they're not just in the horse business, they're in the gambling business with very expensive chips. And at the very apex, polo culture, the ultimate rich person sport, where the horses, called ponies regardless of their size, can be worth more than the cars in the parking lot. This isn't just about sport, it's about lifestyle, status, and international jet setting with your string of polo ponies. And yes, polo horses often fly in planes. And then there's the working horse world. Farming, ranching, actual labor, which is obviously a completely different culture with different values, different breeds, and different relationships between human and horse. These people have horses because they need them, not because they want them. Understanding the difference between horse culture and horse hobby is crucial, and I'm not talking about hobby horses, by the way, not that nonsense. Knowing the difference between horse culture and horse hobby, this is crucial because the social dynamics are completely different. It's the difference between being a tourist and being a resident. Weekend riders, these are your consumers. They pay for lessons, they ride school horses, they participate in the experience. Horse culture people, they're investors, they own the horses, they know the bloodlines, they understand the breeding, the training, the business. When you walk into a high-end stable, everyone can immediately tell which category you fall into. Regional differences matter enormously. English riding culture, hunt seat, dressage, show jumping tends to be a bit more formal, more traditional, with specific social protocols. Western riding culture, rodeo, cutting, reining, is a bit more practical, more egalitarian, but with its own set of unwritten rules. They're different worlds with different languages. And then we have hunt clubs and traditional equestrian society. Traditional hunt clubs represent old money horse culture at its most established. These institutions have waiting lists, sponsorship requirements, and social hierarchies that make exclusive country clubs look democratic. Understanding hunt culture is understanding how horses have historically been markers of social class. Horses specifically are generational wealth indicators because they represent an ongoing investment, not one-time purchases. The family that's been breeding horses for 3 generations operates very differently from the family that just bought their first horse because they could afford it. The knowledge, the relationships, the understanding of bloodlines, these take decades to develop. Now let's get into horse breeds. Understanding horse breeds is like understanding wine regions. It immediately signals your level of knowledge and helps you to navigate conversations with confidence. Each breed represents different values, different uses, and different social circles. Thoroughbreds. These are the aristocrats of the horse world. All modern thoroughbreds trace back to 3 foundation stallions imported to England in the 17th and 18th centuries. These are racing royalty, fast, elegant, hot-blooded, and expensive. A bit like redheads. When someone owns thoroughbreds, they're either in the racing business or they appreciate the pinnacle of equine breeding. Thoroughbred bloodlines are tracked like royal genealogies. Next up we have warm bloods. These are the athletes of the equestrian world. These European sport horses, Hanoverians, Dutch warm bloods, Oldenburgs, these dominate Olympic competition. They're bred for specific sports, show jumping, dressage, eventing. Owning a quality warm blood signals significant competitive ambition and understanding of modern sport horse breeding. Arabians. These are the original purebreds with bloodlines documented for over 1,000 years. These are instantly recognizable. Dished faces, arched necks, high tail carriage. Arabians represent heritage, endurance, and historical significance. The Arabian horse world has its own shows, its own community, and deep respect for preservation of bloodlines. Quarter horses. Now these are America's horse. Versatile, practical, athletic. They dominate Western riding, rodeo, and ranch work. The quarter horse world is more egalitarian, more focused on performance than pedigree, but still has its own elite levels. When someone rides quarter horses, they're usually plugged into Western culture and have American horse traditions. Now here's something that immediately will mark you as an outsider, confusing ponies and horses. Horses are over 14.2 hands high, and yes, hands are the standard unit of measurement when it comes to horses. A hand is 4 inches, making that 58 inches at the shoulder, whereas ponies are under 58 inches. But it's not just about size. Ponies and horses are often different breeds entirely. Also, again, remember that in polo, all of the mounts are called ponies regardless of size, because historically, they were all just smaller. Now here's where horse ownership gets financially fascinating. The purchase price is just the admission fee. What happens afterward is where your bank account goes to pasture. Quite literally. It's a bit of the same situation as with yachts and jets. I hope you're seeing the pattern here. A $10,000 horse costs about $8,000 to $12,000 per year to maintain. That's boarding, feed, vet care, training, insurance, and competition expenses. So after 5 years, that $10,000 horse actually costs $50,000 to $70,000. The horse is the cheapest part of owning a horse. Boarding alone, aka horse storage, ranges from $200 to $300 per month for basic pasture board to $800 to $1.2K a month for full service training barns. Top competition facilities can charge $1,500 monthly, and that's before you factor in training fees. That can add another $500 to $1,000 a month depending on the level. And then we have vet bills where horses get expensive really quickly. Annual vaccinations, dental work, and routine care. These cost $800 to $1.2K yearly. But surgery, That's about 8k to 15k. Lameness issues requiring surgery and rehabilitation, that's about 5k to as high as 20k. Horse medicine is more expensive than human medicine, and there is no insurance for horses that covers everything. So one day, someone might offer you a free horse as a part of a business deal or something like that. I hope you understand by now that the most expensive horse is a free horse. Free horses usually come with problems, age, injury, behavioral issues, or bloodlines that nobody wants. By the time you've spent money on vet work, training, and correcting issues, that free horse often costs more than just buying a quality horse outright. And then we have horse breeding, which is essentially legalized gambling with very expensive chips. Basically playing God with forcing horses to have sex. A stallion breeding fee can range from 500 to 100k per mare. Then you wait 11 months for foaling, pray for a healthy foal, and then you spend 3 to 4 years raising and training and just hope that you have actually produced something worth more than you invested. Needless to say, most breeding operations lose money. Therefore, smart money often uses racing syndicates. Multiple people own shares in racehorses, spreading both cost and risk. You might own 10% of a racehorse for 20k instead of owning 100% for 200k. It's a bit similar to people who timeshare jets. Now, if horses represent wealth, Polo represents wealth with style points. This isn't just about having money, it's about having time, money, international connections, and the confidence to play a sport that can literally kill you. Ralph Lauren, perfect example, built a global luxury empire by understanding Polo's visual language. He took the aesthetics of Polo, the mallets, the ponies, riders, and white, and turned it into a brand that signals aspiration, even for people who've never even seen a polo match. That's how powerful polo imagery is. It sells a lifestyle to people who can't afford the lifestyle. I used to spend time at Valdevi. It's a polo estate in Cape Town where Prince Harry would go when he visited South Africa. The property itself was extraordinary. Polo fields, luxury accommodations, stables. The property itself was extraordinary. It's a gated community with polo fields, luxury accommodations, stables. But what really struck me was how polo served as this international passport. Players from Argentina, England, America, all connected through this sport that requires serious money and serious skill. Argentina is the epicenter of modern polo. The best players, the best ponies, the most serious breeding programs. They dominate international polo. Many wealthy polo enthusiasts will maintain horses in Argentina, fly players and ponies to competitions worldwide, and treat polo like a global enterprise rather than just a sport. Here are some famous polo clubs with social significance. Polo clubs aren't just sporting venues, they're social institutions. Wellington Polo Club in Florida, Guards Polo Club in England, La Guarda in Argentina. These are networking hubs where business deals happen over champagne and matches. The sport is almost secondary to the social connections. Now here's something that outsiders don't understand. In polo, the horses are often worth more than the players. A top polo pony can sell for about 40k to 100k and more, while even professional players might earn just 30k to 50k per season. Players are employees and horses are the investments. The real money is in owning the ponies, not playing the sport. Here's some essential horse vocabulary that you need to know to get around these circles. Horse people have their own language, but master the basics and you can impress any horse girl. Or any important person you're trying to network with. Basic vocabulary. Mare is an adult female, stallion is an intact adult male, gelding is a castrated male, filly is a young female, and colt is a young male. Using these correctly shows you understand horses aren't just generic horses, that their gender and breeding status matter enormously in this world. In terms of riding terminology, gaits, these refer to the movement of the horse. Walk, trot, canter, and gallop, never run. Those are essentially the 4 gears of horse riding. Equipment includes saddles, bridles, and bits, not seats and reins. Common mistake. The area where horses are kept is a stable or barn. individual spaces are stalls, not cages. I remember I was in Bali once and the Indonesian groom, which is what you call a horse caretaker, he called it a horse cage. And there was this horse girl there and she was horrified with that terminology. So clearly, these distinctions matter to people who live in this world. Now, when it comes to breeding terminology can get complex really quickly. Bloodlines refer to genetic heritage, pedigrees are documented family trees, stakes are high-level competitions, and handicapping is a rating system for players and horses. Similar to golf, understanding these terms lets you engage in conversations about horse quality and breeding strategy. And as mentioned before, horses are measured in hands. 1 hand equals 4 inches, so a 16-hand horse is 64 inches tall at the withers, meaning the highest point of the shoulders. The head isn't counted because, horse heads can go down. Using hands instead of feet and inches immediately signals that you understand horse measurement conventions. Now, how do you behave if you get invited into a horse stable? If you ever do find yourself in a stable, this is important. Stable etiquette is about safety and respect. Always let horses know where you are. Talk to them. Touch their shoulder before moving around them. Never walk directly behind a horse without them knowing you are there. Most horse people are happy to teach safety, but they expect you to take it seriously. You do not want to get kicked. The equestrian competition world revolves around 3 Olympic disciplines, each requiring different skills, different horses, and different financial investments. Show jumping. This is pure athleticism. Horse and rider navigating courses of fences at speed. Top show jumpers can cost 50k to 500k, and the sport requires precision timing and nerve. It's the most accessible to watch and understand, but extremely expensive to compete at high levels. And then there's dressage, often called horse ballet. It's about precision, partnership, and making difficult movements look effortless. Dressage horses are bred for specific movement and temperament. The training is measured in years, not months, and the relationship between horse and rider is more intimate than in other disciplines. And then we have eventing. Eventing combines dressage, cross-country jumping, and show jumping over 3 days. It is the ultimate test of horse and rider versatility. Eventing horses need courage, athleticism, and brains. They're often the most well-rounded horses in the sport, but this sport has lots of risk that not everyone is comfortable with. And here's the economic reality of this. Prize money in horse sports rarely covers expenses. Even successful show jumpers might win 20k to 50k annually, but spend 100k on horses, training, and travel. Most competitive riders are funded by, well, you've guessed it, family money, or sponsors, or they own successful businesses that support their expensive horse careers. Certain horses transcend sport and become cultural legends. Knowing these stories demonstrates understanding of horse racing history and culture. Secretariat is the gold standard of racing greatness. His 1973 Belmont Stakes victory, winning by 31 lengths and setting a track record that still stands, is considered the greatest performance in racing history. 50 years later, serious horse people still reference him when discussing athletic greatness. I could imagine using this knowledge in the context of making a joke about someone's horse if they say, oh yeah, this is the fastest horse in here. You can say something like, oh, the next Secretariat. That might earn you some brownie points. And then we have Far Lap. Far Lap dominated Australian racing in the 1930s, then mysteriously died in America under suspicious circumstances. His story combines sporting excellence with conspiracy theories, making him a cultural icon in Australia. His heart, which was found to be abnormally large, which maybe explains things, is preserved in the Australian Institute of Anatomy. And we also have the whole drama of racing scandals, doping, betting, corruption. Racing has always struggled with this. Recent cases involve everything from performance-enhancing drugs to electrical devices used to shock horses during races. These scandals remind us that where serious money and gambling intersect, integrity tends to become complicated. Some stallions are worth more than major corporations. Versace Pegasus sold for $37 million for breeding rights. Top stallions can generate 10 to 20 million annually in breeding fees. Imagine that, being paid to... Never mind. The breeding business makes the racing business look modest. It's all about creating genetic gold mines. Horse events, if you ever get invited to one, acknowledge that these have their own social dynamics, and understanding these helps you to navigate conversations without looking like you learned about horses from My Little Pony. If you're talking to someone who rides, you could ask things like, what draws you to this discipline, or how did you find this trainer? This shows genuine interest in the horse world. Avoid saying stupid things like, is that a fast horse? Or, oh, how much did that cost? These will immediately mark you as someone who does not understand the complexity of this world. Also understand that horse events have clear hierarchies. Owners, trainers, riders, grooms, spectators. Understanding who does what and treating everyone with appropriate respect shows that you understand the ecosystem. The groom who cares for $1 million horse deserves the same courtesy as the owner. And if you rode as a child, feel free to mention it as background but not qualification. Don't mention it if you just rode a pony once as a child. Definitely don't do that. But it's okay to mention something like, I rode a bit growing up, so I really love horses, but just be sure to add on something like, but I'm still learning about the competitive side. This shows humility while establishing some connection. Never say something like, oh yeah, I rode horses too, so I know all about this. That guarantees that you will be politely dismissed. It is the equivalent of telling a devout Catholic that I went to Catholic school, so I know all about Catholicism. Now, it's also good to be able to distinguish between serious horse money and recreational horse money. Someone who casually mentions owning a few horses, that person definitely operates differently than someone who's excited about their one horse. Someone who breeds horses professionally thinks a lot differently than someone who bought a retired racehorse as a project. Horses reveal more about their owners than almost any other luxury. They represent ongoing commitment, not just a one-time purchase. They require knowledge, not just money. They demand time, not just wealth. So that said, horse knowledge can open doors in the right circumstances, because it demonstrates a certain cultural literacy in a world that values tradition, expertise, and long-term thinking. Horse people, they respect competence and authenticity over flash and pretension. Understanding horses shows that you appreciate complexity and nuance. So here's the reality. For most people, horse ownership isn't practical or financially sensible. But understanding the culture helps you to engage meaningfully with people for whom horses are central to their identity, business, or social connections. It's cultural fluency that serves you in unexpected contexts. And it makes you sound cool and a bit less pretentious wearing a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. If you do want to develop genuine understanding beyond this introduction, here are some resources that emphasize practical knowledge and cultural appreciation rather than turning you into a horse encyclopedia. For learning, The Horse magazine offers solid educational content without excessive technical jargon. Practical Horseman, this focuses on real-world riding and horse care. Online, Horse and Hound provides excellent coverage of the competition world and industry news, or you can just follow a bunch of horse girls on Instagram. These resources show you how horse people actually think and talk about their horses. For some real experience, visit major horse shows and competitions. Many are open to spectators, and you'll see quality horses and serious riders. Local horse trials, hunter paces, and charity events offer more accessible entry points. Even county fairs, if you're in America, often have horse competitions that show you the breadth of the horse world. Major events worth attending: the Kentucky Derby. This isn't just about gambling, it's about seeing thoroughbred culture at its pinnacle. Local hunter jumper shows happen most weekends, and it gives you good insight into the competitive world. Polo matches, these are social events as much as sporting events. These experiences teach you more than any book. So what does this knowledge actually get you? Well, with this knowledge, it'll help you navigate conversations at things like charity polo matches that you might get invited to, business events at hunt clubs, or social situations where, for some reason, horse knowledge is assumed. You don't need to own horses or ride horses to understand the culture, and understanding the culture often matters more than actual ownership. Now, always remember, like yachts, horses are solutions to problems that most people don't have. Problems like, I need a competitive outlet that costs $50,000 annually, or I require a hobby that involves getting up at 5 a.m. in all weather. But for people who do have these problems, horses provide joy, challenge, and connection that money can't buy elsewhere.